By now, every little thing has been said about the F-14A. The Phoenixes that let you relive the Iran-Iraq War and all its overpowered glory, the AWG-9 that blows the F-4J's AWG-10 out of the water, or the fact that it's dominating the Matchmaker for months to come. I've already made a full video on the F-14's features before the update went live, so this video will focus on the F-14 in-game in terms of matchmaking, comparisons to 11.3s, and probably what we can expect with the features that the game has implemented with the F-14. This video may come off as more of a review of the update instead of an assessment of the F-14, but seeing as how I believe War Thunder bet their entire update on this very fighter, maybe the F-14 and this update is just one and the same. Maybe you can consider the review of the F-14 after having played it extensively. The most obvious complaint about the F-14 is that it has no peer, as if its introduction is the only 4th generation fighter with a radar of that capacity. It's the only radar capable of trackless scan, vertical scan lock-on, and dual-mode pulse Doppler ranging and velocity scan. The AWG-9 is also more forgiving in notch angles compared to the AWG-10, maintaining locks and angles the AWG-10 just gives up on. It commands paros better than most fighters, only matched by the JE-37D, now also with trackless scan and close quarter engagements with its paros. The F-14's IR missiles are rear aspect, but the AIM-9H's track rate is equal to that of the AIM-9L, meaning it can maintain its seeker on fast-moving aircraft that flares can't spoof unless dropped in enough quantities. It's also blessed with an extremely powerful rocket motor, one that caught up to a starfighter after burning on deck at 2.5 kilometers distance. But the star of the show is the AIM-54A Phoenix. Fox 3 in TWS mode just lets you fire all 4 and score 2 kills at best without any effort. The AIM-54A is a game changer, and the fact that you can fire from ranges that RWR of some aircraft at that BR can't even detect is pretty much insane. The fact that it guides itself with inertial guidance and data link on top of active radar homing makes it a very potent missile, even with its drawbacks in terms of maneuverability. Obviously, with all the capabilities this plane has, on top of it being the F-14 itself, Matchmaker has taken a nosedive for the second update in a row. The A-10 spam of Winds of Change was nothing compared to what the F-14 brought with Danger Zone. And it's not like it's the A-10 that people were chasing a false promise. The F-14 is actually an amazing fighter in its own right and is not a slow ground pounder with overpowered missiles at a low BR to compensate. A quick look at the RB Matchmaker shows how aggressively one-sided this Matchmaker can be. The worst part is that, with all these F-14s and F-4Js running around, aircraft that have suffered in that Matchmaker like the Mirage F-1C and the Su-17 M4 are finding it difficult to keep up. I know what you're asking. What's the actual counterpart to the F-14? You keep talking about the F-14 being too good for its own Matchmaker and being overpowered at this point in time. So what is the actual proper fighter to face off against the F-14 that would put it on equal footing? The short answer is, well, nothing. The long answer is that it's very complicated. The F-14 was a fleet defense fighter optimized to combat heavy bombers carrying anti-ship missiles, as well as replace the Phantom in its fighter and secondary ground attack role. The Soviet Union did not have a fleet air defense fighter until the Su-33. By the time that Tomcat was entering service, the Soviets were still flying the Yak-38. And in terms of capability, something like the R-73 and R-27 is very strong compared to the AIM-9H and the AIM-7F, even if the AIM-9L is added to the F-14A. So since the Soviet Union is a bust, let's try to look elsewhere. The Panavia Tornado F2 and IDS could be good for the British, as well as the Italians and the Germans. Honestly, the F-14 is such a unique plane that finding a direct counterpart would be difficult, even if something like the MiG-25 with the R-40 would struggle against the F-14 up close. So the long and short of it is that Gaijin probably realized he'd rather get the F-14 out of the way and buy into the hype instead of a reasonable addition with the F-16 and MiG-29 already flying around. They put the F-14 problem out of the way first so that at least they can buy into the hype that people would actually go for it. Instead of adding the F-14 after the F-16 and MiG-29 when everyone already has enjoyed generation 4 capabilities, and the F-14 is just another plane. So thanks to the F-14, we now have Fox 3s in game along with trackless scan radars. So what can we expect from here on? As I've outlined in the Fox 3s in Gen 4 video, the AIM-54 has opened up the way for the AMRAAM and R-77 next. Viggen has already acquired its trackless scan capability, thus what's next is probably the F-15 and the MiG-29. However, I believe the F-15A for the US won't get the AMRAAM just yet to keep it balanced with the F-15J for Japan and the F-15A Baz for Israel. Likewise with the F-16, the F-16A for the US, Israel and Italy would start with the A variants, either with only AIM-9Ls or the Block 15 with Sparrows. What are the lessons we've learned from adding something like the F-14 in this manner? Well, to be honest, we've learned nothing new. The lesson that we shouldn't add hype planes without counters was a lesson we should have learned with the T2 and Locked On. At least the power creep between the T2 and its contemporaries were less blatant than the F-14 flying against a MiG-23 MLD with no R-60Ms or the 11.0 F-4F for Germany. But this is the consequence of hype chasing. The hype around the F-14 was bound to make this happen. But however, a game like this lives and dies on the hype. When a throwaway update dropped like the Starfighters update, it was perhaps the lowest player count the game has ever experienced. Hell, even I quit for 3 months. This game is a hamster wheel of hype and complaints, and it's just this bizarre way of how War Thunder works. If War Thunder was self-sustaining, new ERA back in 2017 would have never been a thing, and we'd still be fighting mouses in IS-4Ms and M60s. I hope that after the Danger Zone update, everyone gets their fair share of comparable aircraft. As of the moment, I'm going to steer away from Air RB and focus on tanks, because I already have the F-14, and it's all just F-14s featuring some poor bloke that doesn't have the USA tree grinded, so at the moment, this ZTZ-99A has got my full attention. So as always, thanks for watching. This is Dr. MD. Godspeed.